Dear shorthand writers, you are watching YouTube channel Parliamentary Reporter. This is English shorthand dictation number 173 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I am afraid whether I shall be able to finish all that I have to say on this bill within the 10 minutes allotted to me by you. However, I will try my best and will be very brief. This bill proposes to solve the two problems which affect the agriculturists of this presidency. One is the problem of scattered farms and the other is the problem of small farms. I do not think that any honorable member who has listened to the speech of my honorable friend, the Settlement Commissioner, will deny that the scattered farms are an evil and that evil should be cured as far as possible. I agree with him that there are many disadvantages in having scattered farms, and so far as that part of the bill is concerned, I agree that there should be consolidation. Coming to the question of small farms, I must say that I differ from the honorable mover of the bill on the question that small farms are unprofitable. Sir, the honorable member loaded us with figures showing how small the existing farms were and what were the difficulties that were dependent upon the smallness of the farms. I admit there are difficulties in the existence of small farms, but I do not admit that small farms are necessarily unprofitable or uneconomic. I do not understand what is the definition of the word uneconomic as it is used by the honorable mover of the bill or the Settlement Commissioner. Sir, as I understand the term, I should like to state that whether the farm is economic or uneconomic does not necessarily depend upon the size of the farm. It depends, and in fact it varies with other factors of production. It varies with labor. It varies with capital. If a farmer has got the means to employ increased labor and if he has not got any large capital to invest, then I submit that if this farm is small, it would not be proper to call it uneconomic on that account. That being my position, sir, I would have very much liked to hear from the mover of the bill and also from the Settlement Commissioner that in our country we have a plethora of capital and that we had large agricultural equipment for a highly efficient sort of production. If they had shown that was the case, then we could have agreed with them that the small farms made production uneconomic insofar as they prevented the utilization of the equipment we had to the best advantage. But sir, I must confess that the Settlement Commissioner has altogether omitted to touch that point. I should have liked to hear from him that the farmer had an enormous amount of capital, that they had plows and cattle in large numbers, and that they could not employ all that because their farms were too small. So far as I have been able to work out the problem, I find that instead of the capital available at the disposal of the farmer being very large and being wasted because his holdings were small, the situation is just the opposite of what we are led to believe. I find, sir, in the Madras Presidency we have one plough for 3 acres. In the Bombay Presidency we have one plough for 6 acres. In Punjab there is one plough for every 2 acres. I am reading from the official figures. These are the figures regarding the capital equipment of the farmer, and considering the position which I am taking, I am inclined to think that under the present circumstances it is better to further reduce the farms. That will be my logical position and I am not afraid to face it. I do not therefore understand what is the use of enlarging the farms if the farmer has not got the wherewithal to cultivate the land. I do not understand how the increasing of the area of the soil to add anything to any produce if he has not got the necessary labor and capital to cultivate the land. Then we have also got to remember one fact, that ours is an agricultural country and that our soil is exhausted. We have been cultivating it for thousands of years, and no matter what efforts we may take, we cannot raise the productivity of our soil to the same level as in America, where the soil is virgin. We must reckon with that fact. That being so, the salvation lies not in increasing the size of farms, but in having intensive cultivation that is employing more capital and more labor on the farms such as we have. I therefore think that that part of the bill which deals with the enlargement of the farms is altogether uncalled for. But assuming that we must consolidate our holdings and that we must also enlarge our farms, I think it is necessary to look into the methods that are proposed to be employed by this bill more carefully than has been done by the mover of the bill. Sir, the methods which are chiefly employed in this bill are first, control of partition of the immovable property, and secondly, the sale of consolidated holdings. I do not think that there can be any dispute on the point that if these two methods are adopted, a large part of our agricultural population will be landless, and I do not think that it is in the best interests of the country that the poorer classes should be further pauperized in this manner. Sir, I should like to point out that although the Hindu law is very defective in many ways, yet the Hindu law of inheritance has been one great savior of the people. Sir, the social and religious autocracy established by the Hindu religion has kept a large mass of the people in perpetual thraldom. If their lot is tolerable under this thraldom, it is because the Hindu law of inheritance has prevented the creation of plutocracy. Sir, we do not wish to add economic slavery to social thraldom. Let men be economically free if they are not socially free. I am therefore totally opposed to the abrogation of that just and equitable system of inheritance. At this stage, I should like to make one humble suggestion to the honorable mover of this bill. I am prepared to give my support to the first reading of this bill, provided he is not wedded to the method of consolidation and enlargement of holding as provided in the bill. I think, sir, the better method is to introduce cooperative agriculture for standard areas and to compel owners of small strips included therein to join in cultivation without destroying private ownership. If this is done, if some provision for this is made in the bill, then I would certainly support the bill. The honorable member, Mr. Anderson, the settlement commissioner, shakes his head, but I can tell the honorable member that the method which I am suggesting is not my own, but is a system which is prevalent in Italy, in France, and is being followed in parts of England with great advantage. Such a solution at any rate would avoid that revolutionary interference with traditional rights of succession that is so often recommended by light-hearted reformers of non-farming classes and would not bring in its train those consequences in the way of limitation of families which may be anticipated if legislation interferes to disinherit younger children. So it will be seen, sir, that such a system has been actually tried elsewhere and with success. I would conclude by saying that if the honorable leader of the House is prepared to consider all these suggestions carefully and will not object to any amendments that may be suggested in the select committee, and if he is not wedded to the method of consolidation and enlargement of holdings as proposed in the bill, then I have no objection to supporting the first reading of the bill. The mechanism employed by the bill to maintain the standard unit once it is laid down is twofold. First, it severely penalizes the owners of farms smaller than the standard so that ownership of a small farm shall become a burden instead of a benefit to him. Secondly, it prohibits the ownership of small farms in that it provides that in future small farms shall not come into existence at all. As an instance of the latter, one may refer to the restrictions on partitions. It is therefore obvious that in the mechanism adopted by the bill, the rights of ownership of people are at stake. I object to this mechanism on three grounds. Firstly, it affects the rights of property. If the arrangement was state ownership and state management of lands, the invasion of rights of property would not be a matter of such anxious concern. But the management is such that there will be the aggrandizement of some landlords at the cost of the rest. There is no doubt in my mind that the effect of the mechanism adopted in the bill will be to reduce some land owning farmers into landless laborers. It is difficult to imagine how many will find themselves in this predicament. Everything will depend upon how large the standard farm will be. If the standard be much above the actual, it will affect a large class than what the case will be if the standard approximated the actual. The magnitude of displacement that will take place is an unknown quantity and will become known only when the standard becomes defined.